of viewport that you can utilize in Revit. So I'm going to go to my View tab, down to User Interface, and go back to my recent files. And what you're going to want to do is click this New Conceptual Mass button, and it'll open up a dialog box where you can open up this mass family. I'm going to click Open. Just like in your Families tab that we worked, or Families viewport that we worked in last time, you have Create, Insert, View, Manage, Add-ins, and the Modify tab. You notice there's a new kind of set of tools that you can use in the Create tab. Last time it was just kind of 2D line work, which gave you some of these options but not all of them. And so the ribbon is similar, but it's slightly different for every single kind of viewport. Excuse me. Still have your properties of your mass and then your project browser, and now we've got some more options where it gives us a 3D window automatically, and it's set up with elevations as well. And what you're looking at is kind of the 3D version of what we were looking at when we opened up our family to draw the wall profile reveal. And so this is what kind of we were looking at when we opened up that family. But now we've got the 3D view. Oh, and if you click on that opens up a camera, this 3D view 1. You just go ahead and delete that so you don't get confused. You can't draw in a camera, so if you end up opening that and you're like, I can't do anything in this space, it's because it's a camera, it's not at the actual 3D viewport.
Can you delete it?
Right click on it and delete. So right click and delete. So under level 1, you see we've got these two reference lines, front to back and center left to right, and those are these reference planes here. Okay, and if you look in the name of under the properties, when you select it, it'll tell you which plane you're looking at. So this one's the center left to right, and this one is your center front to back. This is your actual level. So if you go into your elevation view, you'll notice a dashed line that shows the reference level itself of what you're drawing on. This becomes important later on. Today we're just going to draw some shapes in here and show you how to draw similar to like 3ds Max, where you're doing extrusions, you know, using a revolve tool, a blend tool, a sweep tool, to create different shapes. Okay, but you notice there is no kind of commands up here that say that, right? And so you kind of wonder, how do you do it? So it's very important to always know what work plane you're working on. Typically, you want to go ahead and set that. It defaults typically to level 1, but we want to definitely make sure that that's our work plane, and you can click show and it highlights your work plane. Okay, so up here there's two different options of line types. One is model line and the other is reference. And so if you use a model line to say draw something, there's not as much characteristics as if you used a reference line to draw something. You'll notice a difference in color between the two, but when I hover over this, these lines, you see all these other dashed lines here. Those are more reference planes attached to the individual lines themselves. And so when you're working in this environment, it's best to use reference lines. And if you end up drawing in model lines, you can select them, and in the properties dialog box under identity data, there's what's called is this a reference line or is it not a reference line? And so you can check that, and now these become reference lines. Okay? And so the other difference, I'm going to Control Z that. The other difference is if we create a form with this shape, right, and we use that button, it creates an extrusion, right? And you can change the dimension of how tall that is, or you can tab through to select the whole object or just a corner of it, you know, and start pushing and pulling this thing. But if you tab over the whole thing, and you see we've got some more tools up here. You ever want to dissolve this thing back to its original 2D reference lines or model lines, you'll notice that it kind of gives you they basically the model lines that you created disappear, and then you've got two sets of model lines, and it's difficult to go ahead and, well, now it starts giving you warnings and stuff when you start to dissolve it again. And so basically model lines disappear after you've created a form from them, whereas reference lines don't. And so you'll notice if I click this guy, and it asks me if I want to create a plane or an extrusion. I want to create an extrusion at this point. But if I tab through that and select it and dissolve it, it goes back to those reference lines instead of creating an additional set of model lines. So that's something to note and be aware of. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to select this guy and just move him to the center. The other thing is you can start to dimension these guys. And it changed my sorry?
Your model line, it changed your reference plane.
Yeah, it did. It changed my work plane as well. So you have to be very careful about the difference between that and making sure that you stick to before you do anything, make sure the reference plane that you want to work with is actually selected. I'm just going to reduce the size of this thing at the moment because I don't want it that big, and I could probably redraw it and be a lot quicker. And why did I do that? I'm going to click these other two. If I tab through when I have these hovered, you can select the individual line, and then you can edit that dimension. Maybe we just want that to be like 10 feet. And we're going to tab through to select this line and make it 10 feet as well. So now we've just got a rectangle that's 10 by 10, and we're going to create a form. You want to create the solid form. You can create void forms as well, which is basically you can cut into another solid form. So just going to create an extrusion, and that's our first shape. So you can also again tab through and select surfaces. Oh, you can't do that, huh? Doesn't make the does with the top, so you can make that larger if you want. But that again reset my work plane to this top of this. You can see because I have my work plane showing, it's showing that now my work plane is the top of that, which is not necessarily what we want. So I'll go back and set my work plane to my level 1. So the next shape I'm going to show is basically how to revolve, create and use the revolve tool. And for that I'm going to set my work plane actually to be one of these vertical planes, and I'm going to draw a reference line by clicking. I'm going to click the center point here and draw up, and it snaps to, you know, the vertical and the horizontal. So I'm going to snap to my vertical, and I'm just going to go like, I don't know, 60 feet. Press escape out of that. And now I can draw some lines in this direction. And it'll just make some funky shape. And it's important when you do this that this endpoint is snapped to the reference line, and this start point is snapped to the reference line. So I can go ahead and select, and to select multiple objects, I'm going to use my control button, I believe it's the Apple button for Mac users, to highlight and select both of those. And then I'm going to use the create solid form tool again, and it revolves that profile around the reference line. And so that is the revolve tool. The next one we're going to look at is what's called a blend. And I'm just looking to see exactly what. Yeah, okay. So in this instance, we're going to go to our east elevation, and we're going to hover over our level 1. And if you hit the control button while the plus sign, while you're hovering over it, there's a little plus sign there. If you hit the control button and click with your left mouse button, you can create another level, and you can do this as many times as you want. And this is true also in your project environment, in your elevation views. And so now we have multiple levels, and we could dimension these to be equal using our dimension tool and the equal command. And if we wanted to, we could set up kind of a parameter for that as well, and say we want this to be maybe 10 feet, and they all shrink to that 10 feet. So now that you've got level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, they're all at 10-foot intervals. And notice that doesn't create views here for these different levels. They're black. And so if we go to our view tab, there should be a tab here that says floor plans. If we select, if I hold the shift key, select one, and then go down and select, you can select all of them at once and press OK, and now you can see all these viewports are here. I'm going to go back to my 3D view and maybe just move this giant object out of the way. Maybe not, because I'm on the wrong plane. Or maybe not. Maybe I need to select that reference line as well. I was on the right plane before. There we go. So I had to select the reference line that I used to host that profile and the element itself to move it. Also, since it's attached to that vertical work plane, it only wants to move horizontally or up and down on that work plane. So I had to look at which, if I was looking in the south direction, it's looking at this work plane versus, so I could only move it up and down. But in the east elevation, we were looking at this work plane, so I could move it left or right. If that makes sense. So the next one we're going to make is I'm going to set my work plane back to the level 1 here. Is we're going to draw some reference lines and use the rectangular tool, and just going to make this fairly small here. And what I want to do is kind of create what's called a blend mass. And so I'm going to copy this to my clipboard. Okay? And now I can paste it and align it to a selected view. And now that I've made these levels, I can go ahead and pick level 2, and now I've copied it identically to the same place but on level 2. And I can rotate it and then with my control button I can select both of these. And create a form. And again, if I go to, let me dissolve this shape, redraw that, and dissolve this shape. If I hover over my 4 reference lines and select them, you can copy them to what's called the clipboard, which is in your Modify tab, and then you can paste it to a particular selected view. Select both, create solid form. You can tab through and maybe change this height to, because it's attached to my level. So good at this. Okay, is anybody having trouble making those 3 shapes? You guys want to help him out with one of those?
Under what tab is the create the shape?
Once you have them selected, it should pop up under your Modify tab.
You open one of your elements, there's like this one won't revolve. So
Do you have any questions?
So go back to your 3D. Where's the just on this one here. See over here.
So if you want to select
Oh, it's because so you need to select this one. Copy in the clipboard.
and using the create form tool, you use the solid
Nope.
Yeah.
It won't let me create a, like I have the things.
Okay. You gotta select both of them.
Yeah, I guess I could look at
So create form.
You're also form create form. So just control Z out of that. Paste it again, and then this time use the rotate tool.
They're on the same work plane. So if we go to elevation view and select our level 1, we can, I believe, use the command tool, command button,
Yeah, I'm working in this while I'm playing. I've got
select and drag,
Or is it working now?
and now you're copying.
I mentioned that to you, but how you select it without working. So is that a
There is no additional. So you can also go ahead and copy it.
But I can't select it without working.
This up. So now we've got level 1 and level 2. And under our view tab, under floor plans, you can say create this viewport. Now in your project browser, you have the level 2 here. So if we go back to the 3D view, and let's delete this.
So there's something we forgot to tell you, which is when you are creating this
Copy the clipboard, and then I can paste it and align it
your
to
profile line not intersect. You got either
and now we've got two in the exact same place, just one's on one level, one's on the other.
So now if I
So if you also like click here and drag, you can select
yeah.
Yes.
When you're doing the revolve function, neither end of your profile intersect with the end of the
Well, it's good I never really ran into that.
If it does, it won't rotate. It just makes this extremely straight.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So
Okay, you're
that
right.
was his problem.
Yeah. So with the revolve command, with your reference line, if you end up with, I'm going to dissolve this. If you end up with your profile that you've drawn connecting to the endpoints of this reference line, it'll end up asking you if you want to extrude a flat surface or create a plane. So when you do the revolve tool, those points can't be intersecting these endpoints. Snap to end. So if I had that, right, and I go create form, it thinks that I'm trying to extrude something and not revolve it. So I can make a flat surface or an extrusion. So just be wary of that. Okay. So in assignment 1, just going to jump back because we didn't get through many of these today. This link, this Autodesk Revit blogspot, takes you to this website, and there's no verbal commands in these tutorials, but it shows you how to create all of these shapes. And so part of the homework assignment is to create all of these shapes. So watch the tutorial and follow it. If you have to create a second like level 2 or level 3, you at least know how to do that, and I'll post my video to the YouTube page so that if you don't remember how to do that, you'll be able to walk through that as well. Okay? With that,